I always knew anti-Semitism was out there. And I'm saying that as someone who isn't even Jewish. I think a lot of people, because of my name, because of the Jewish neighborhood I grew up, they assume I'm Jewish, but I'm not. I guess you can call me a righteous Gentile. But Sue-Ann, what blew me away and continues to blow me away is the level of anti-Semitism. Going back to last Thanksgiving weekend, 2023, when, for goodness sakes, the bodies of the massacre in southern Israel weren't even cold, and you had literally hundreds and hundreds of people coming out that weekend on the streets of Toronto demanding apparently more bloodshed. What do you make of this, Sue-Ann? Because I was completely taken aback by the amount of Jew hatred out there.
Well, let's just say I'm not surprised, because I was writing about this way back in 2009 when Queers Against Israeli Apartheid infiltrated the Gay Pride Parade. And the politicians and the activists just allowed it to happen. The only one who stood up for the Jewish community was Rob Ford, believe it or not, back then. And it took 5 years to get them out of the parade. And then things just got demonstrably worse, with Al-Quds marching on the streets of Toronto without a permit. Poor James Pasternak, the councillor at Toronto City Hall, who is Jewish and who has been fighting an uphill battle, he came out constantly and tried to get them off the streets. And they had a very, very strong activist group, a lobby group led by Dimitri Lascaris. I remember going to a City Hall meeting where he stood up and he openly called me, this terrible Zionist. And isn't that a dirty word? And I could see it getting larger and larger. And then if you remember in 2021, when the last very short conflict, but nevertheless a conflict, the beating up of people at City Hall. And our late, great Mayor John Tory allowed that to happen, and nothing was done. And the police just kind of, they said nothing to see here, and on we go. And cars were surrounded. And so here we are today, a year later from, a year after the most horrific crimes in Israel. And the things are out of control. But I'm not surprised, because we have weak-willed politicians.
And so, and to build on your point, Queers Against Israeli Apartheid, I remember that well. It's shocking. The whole concept is based on a lie. There is no apartheid in Israel. Right. So therefore, what's the real reason for such a slanderous float at the Pride Parade? Well, it's good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. But we've gone from that, and I see them all the time, Sue-Ann, in Toronto, Queers for Palestine. And what I find shocking, and I want your insight because you are a member of that community, Sue-Ann, that if you are gay, lesbian, bi, trans, and you go to Gaza and you're open about it, it's a death sentence. So Queers for Palestine is kind of like chickens for Colonel Saunders.
Yeah.
What is driving that?
Well, I think what happens is that their oppression mentality and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, outweighs the absolute logic. Because yes, if they went over to the Middle East, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and we were saying that way back with Queers Against Israeli Apartheid, but these people think that Jews or Zionists, and they don't even hide the fact. They used to call us Zionists a year ago. They say, I just hate Zionists, I don't hate Jews. But they don't hide that anymore. It's not couched in the Zionist rhetoric. But they think that we're oppressors, and these crazy, crazy queer women, radical women with 14 nose rings and purple hair, come out and they protest for a regime that would kill them the moment they stepped into Gaza. But the worst, Dave, are the Jewish, self-loathing Jewish queers. And there are, more than a few who have been on the streets of Toronto preying on the innocent Jews and Zionists, and who are chanting that mantra. And you think, are they out of their minds? They must be out of their minds.
Incredible. And Swen, let's touch upon the crux of the matter. You attended that forum at the synagogue. Right. I think it was attended by some 200 attendees. And, the theme being right now what we see in Toronto, it's not law enforcement, it's keeping the peace. For the last 6 weeks, we've been going to Bathurst and Shepherd. It is just despicable what's happened. For 13 months now, the pro-Israel people have had a demonstration. I won't even call it a demonstration, Swen. It's more like a vigil. It's about, praying for the kidnapped victims, the ones who are still alive, that is, to be returned. And about 6 weeks ago, the pro-Hamas people came there to stir up trouble. Now, here's what I'm going to get at. If law enforcement is now no longer about enforcing the law and keeping the peace, then Sue-Ann, why don't the cops tell these pro-Hamas demonstrators, you know what? The city of Toronto literally has thousands of intersections. Go 10 blocks south, 5 blocks east. Don't come here. And if they say, I have every right to be here, again, going back to keeping the peace, that is correct. But in the interest of keeping the peace, we don't want you there. Why don't the cops give a little tough love to the pro-Hamas people, Sue-Ann?
Well, they haven't for the last year, Dave. They've allowed this to escalate out of control. And, I think the chief is weak-willed. He's probably being given his marching orders from Olivia Chow, who has proven not to like the Jewish community and not to support the Jewish community. And, they infiltrate wherever they can, and they get away with it. They prey on the downtown streets, block traffic. They get away with it. And these people are breaking so many laws. Yes, I did go to that forum, Dave, and a very wise lawyer by the name of Mark Sandler, who I noticed has just given a talk at City Hall, talked about all the legal means available to them. Even if they can't determine or don't want to determine that a hate crime has been committed, and many have been committed. I mean, when you call death to Jews, or you sit in a chair mocking the Jews by having a big replica of Yahya Sinwar, the hateful Hamas leader who was killed, that to me is pretty hateful. But even if they don't want to use that, let's start with the people obstructing the peace, disturbing the peace, blocking intersections, obstructing the sidewalk. There are so many ways that they could use their powers to get rid of these people, but they haven't. And I think really now, besides the instructions, they're afraid of them. I think they're very much intimidated by these people.
Sue-Ann, I would debate that with you. From what I've seen, I've been covering these demonstrations for 13 months now. I am having a hard time grasping with the idea that the rank and file Toronto police officers are doing this organically, i.e. going after peaceful counter demonstrators, going after members of the independent media, the most notable of which was my beloved boss Ezra last Sunday.
And you.
And 5 arrests in 11 months, Sue-Ann, just this year alone. I think it's coming from above. You mentioned Mayor Olivia Chow. We know she's an anti-Semite. She wouldn't attend the flying of the Israel flag at City Hall for Independence Day. She did not attend the 1-year anniversary vigil. There was bike lanes to discuss. And then the invite didn't get into my email inbox. It went to the spam file. Save it for those buying Ocean View property in Regina. The thing is, I think it's bigger than Olivia Chow. Sue-Ann, we know that Justin Trudeau had a meeting with Police Chief Myron Demkiw earlier this year. We actually filed an FOI, which was rejected. We want to know what was discussed. And I have no proof, Sue-Ann, about this, so I want to bounce it off you, get your opinions. I think Trudeau said to Demkiw, we've got an election coming up in less than a year. we've done the math. It's simply business. There are more than 5 times as many Muslims as there are Jews in Canada. And I'm not saying every Muslim agrees with the atrocities we're seeing out on the street right now. But the fact is, we've made a decision. And so if you see any of the pro-Hamas types chanting genocide or acting out violently, turn a blind eye and a deaf ear. But if there are peaceful counter-demonstrators, if there are members of the non-state funded media asking potentially impolite questions, throw the book at them. Is this what we're seeing, Sue-Ann?
Well, one would think so. I mean, I do believe the politicians have done the math, definitely have done the math. Olivia Chow included, and all the anti-Semites who surround her with Progress Toronto, and I will repeat that, Progress Toronto. The executive director is virulently anti-Israel. Just go on her Twitter feed. And Carolyn Parrish, virulently anti-Israel. I think she got back in office with a sizable Islamist support. And, and then Trudeau, they have all done the numbers, and even Doug Ford. I'm not letting him off the hook because he has been silent. His Jewish Solicitor General, Michael Kersner, has been absolutely spineless. So I think all of them have done either polls or counted the numbers or whatever and left the Jewish community in Toronto, in Montreal, because Val Plante in Montreal is no better, have left the Jewish community hung out to dry.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.